Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're stepping back in time to the dawn of a new era in air combat to look at a machine that represents the pinnacle of biplane fighter design, the legendary Gloster Gladiator. It was the last of its kind for Britain's Royal Air Force, a bridge between the fabric and wire fighters of the Great War and the sleek, all-metal monoplanes that would soon dominate the skies of World War II. Let's start by looking at what made the Gladiator tick. When it first flew in 1934, it was a marvel. While it still had two wings, a throwback to an earlier age, it incorporated some truly modern features for its time. It was the first RAF fighter to feature a fully enclosed cockpit. Can you imagine? For the first time, pilots weren't fully exposed to the freezing, howling wind at altitude. This was a huge leap forward in pilot comfort and endurance. Powering this beast was the Bristol Mercury radial engine, specifically the Mercury 9 model in the Mk1 version, which produced around 830 horsepower. This engine gave the Gladiator a top speed of about 257 miles per hour, or 414 kilometers per hour. Now that might not sound blistering fast compared to a Spitfire, but for a biplane in the mid-1930s, it was seriously quick. Its climb rate was also impressive, capable of reaching 15,000 feet in under 6 minutes. This ability to get to altitude quickly was a critical advantage for an interceptor. One of the Gladiator's defining characteristics was its maneuverability. Thanks to its biplane configuration and relatively low wing loading, it could turn on a dime. In a tight-turning dogfight, a skilled Gladiator pilot could outmaneuver many of the early, less agile monoplanes. It was a nimble, responsive aircraft that pilots genuinely enjoyed flying. For armament, the initial Gladiator Mki was equipped with 4 .303-inch Browning machine guns. 2 were synchronized to fire through the propeller arc, mounted on the fuselage, and 2 were mounted in pods under the lower wings. This was a significant increase in firepower from the 2 gunfighters that preceded it. The later Sea Gladiator variant, adapted for naval operations, was also similarly armed and featured an arrestor hook for carrier landings. So you have this fantastic aircraft, fast for its time, heavily armed, and incredibly agile. But by the time war broke out in 1939, aviation technology had sprinted forward. The Gladiator suddenly found itself facing faster, more powerful monoplanes like the German Messerschmitt Bf 109. Despite being technically obsolete, the Gladiator was thrown into the fray, and its story became one of courage against overwhelming odds. The Gladiator saw its first major action during the Norwegian campaign in 1940. No. 263 Squadron was deployed to a frozen lake, operating under horrific conditions. Here, the Gladiators flew against the might of the Luftwaffe. In one legendary engagement, RAF pilot Louis Pat Paddle, who would become one of the top Allied aces, claimed his first victories flying a Gladiator. The squadron fought valiantly, but the odds were stacked against them. Despite their efforts, their bases were overrun, and the surviving aircraft had to be destroyed. Simultaneously, during the Battle of France, Gladiators were used by both the RAF and the Belgian Air Force. Again, they were up against superior numbers of modern German fighters. While they suffered heavy losses, they didn't go down without a fight, with Belgian and British pilots claiming a number of enemy aircraft before being overwhelmed. It was a testament to the skill of the pilots and the inherent fighting qualities of the old biplane. But perhaps the most famous chapter in the Gladiator's story is the epic siege of Malta in 1940. This is where the legend of faith, hope, and charity was born. Malta, a tiny island fortress in the Mediterranean, was crucial for Allied control of the region. Initially, its only air defense consisted of a handful of Sea Gladiators from the HAL Far fighter flight. The story goes that only 3 aircraft, nicknamed Faith, Hope, and Charity, were left to defend the entire island against relentless Italian air raids. While historical records show there were actually more than 3 Gladiators available, the core of the legend is true. A small number of these biplanes, flown by a determined group of pilots, held the line against a numerically superior enemy. For weeks, they were Malta's only shield. They scrambled time and time again, breaking up bomber formations and engaging Italian fighters. They became a powerful symbol of defiance for the island's besieged population and for the entire Allied world. The image of these old biplanes standing alone against the might of the Axis air forces is one of the most enduring and inspiring of the entire war. The Gladiator also saw extensive service in other theaters. In North and East Africa, it was much more evenly matched against the Italian Air Force's biplane fighters, like the Fiat CR-42 Falco. Here, the Gladiator truly excelled. In the skies over the desert, epic biplane dogfights reminiscent of World War I took place. South African, Australian, and British pilots flying Gladiators racked up impressive scores. The famous ace Pat Paddle, now leading No. 80 Squadron in Greece, continued to demonstrate the Gladiator's lethality, becoming an ace in a day on one occasion while flying it. The Anglo-Iraqi War in 1941 was another theater where the Gladiator played a key role. At RAF Hubaniya, an air training base, a motley collection of aircraft, including a number of old Gladiators, were pressed into service to defend against an Iraqi siege. These trainer aircraft, some flown by instructor pilots, were used to attack enemy ground forces and fight off the Iraqi Air Force. Their surprising and aggressive defense was critical in breaking the siege and securing a vital Allied victory. The Gladiator was also an export success, serving with the air forces of over a dozen countries, including China, Sweden, Finland, and Greece. During the Winter War between Finland and the Soviet Union, the Swedish volunteer unit F-19 flew Gladiators, fighting bravely in the harsh Arctic conditions. The Greek pilots, as we mentioned, also put up a fierce resistance against both Italian and German invasions with their Gladiators. By 1941, the Gladiator had been largely replaced on the front lines by Hurricanes and Spitfires. Its time as a premier fighter was over, but its service wasn't finished. It continued to serve in secondary roles, such as weather reconnaissance and communications, for the remainder of the war. The Gloster Gladiator stands as a unique and important aircraft in history. It was the absolute zenith of biplane design, pushing the concept to its absolute limit. It was an aircraft caught between two worlds, an analog hero in a digital age. But when the call came, it answered with a tenacity and grit that far exceeded its specifications. From the frozen lakes of Norway to the sun-baked skies of Malta and the deserts of Africa, the Gladiator and the pilots who flew it carved out a legacy of courage against all odds. It may have been the last of its kind, but it was undoubtedly one of the finest. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. The story of the Gladiator is a powerful reminder that it's not always about the machine, but about the spirit of the people who operate it. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into aviation history. Let me know in the comments what you think about the Gladiator or what aircraft you'd like to see covered next. Until then, fly safe.